Okay, let's do it. We got week 4 of the NCPBL. Let's break this bad boy down. What do we say? So our first game was Joe versus Cordell. Trying to recall this. I haven't watched it since Wednesday when they played. Trying to remember what was annoying for each side. So talking to Joe and Ty in their prep a little bit, they had a cheeky little plan where like lead Coco matches up well into everything but Manetric, but mostly like a lead Finny into Coco. He'd want to switch out probably into Manetric, hit him with the Volt Switch, go into Ditto, copy that +1 off the Lightning Rod from Manetric, and then also block any electric moves that Manetric would try to do at that point. We'll see what happens actually in the game, but I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I mean, just looking on team preview here, Zapdos looks really good. Really good. Sneasel actually looks pretty good as well. But yeah, this was a really interesting game. It went a lot of turns, so I'm going to kind of just let it play and speak up when I need to. But this is the lead that Joe was predicting. Exact same play, except Joe didn't do what he did in prep, and he just went for Nature's Madness, which is fine. Like, it's a totally fine play. It's just, if you guys kind of come up with game plans in your prep, and the exact situation plays out in the game, don't change it up right there. Unless you have a really good reason to, just stick with what you're comfortable with. That way you end up playing through situations that you've already been prepared for, instead of trying to figure out something on the fly, which is a lot tougher to do with a time constraint of, the game timer. Finny getting knocked off here is pretty big. That's permanent damage anytime anything hits Finny moving forward here. And staying into light screen to get the knockoff off, I didn't love this play. But looking at Cordell's team now, he doesn't have Gastrodon, so he doesn't have a ground type for Coco, and he's already Mega Evolved as Manetric, so he doesn't have Lightning Rod anymore. I don't love it, but the light screen is useful, right? And we'll see how this plays out. That it was definitely something that like Cordell can play around. But it is really annoying having Finny that week, especially with like, Mega Blastoise. It's going to have a better time throwing off Dark Pulses and Water Pulses and stuff. Pretty big crit there on the Volt Switch. Actually pretty crazy turn right there. Crit Volt into Miss Magma. And now Light Screen's gone. Yeah, but Cordell actually plays his Heatran pretty well this game. Just gets leftovers recovery when he needs to. Finny's still bulky enough, even without Light Screen, to take this. He can get Light Screen back up if it wants to. I think, yeah, he just goes for the Draining Kiss because he's already out of range of another hit if Blastoise wanted to attack first. Gets the screen up there on the Coco switch is really important because now Manetric actually gets to live 2 of these. Had that Light Screen not been up, it dies to 2, and it can't really OHKO Coco back at the percentage it's at. Now Joe finally goes into his Ditto there, forgetting that Manetric Mega Evolved, so he doesn't get the Lightning Rod, so his Ditto took 49%, kind of unnecessarily. Like, you still have Nidoking. Coco's honestly fine to stay in front of Manetric as well. Tapu Finny being a great Blastoise answer, just healing up. They covered both plays if Blastoise attacked or if he went into another switch. I think it's coming up in the next couple turns, but he's running Autotomize on a Celesteela, and Ty and I at this point were just like, there's no reason to go for it yet. You're not sweeping, and then Joe did exactly that and went for it. Yeah, I don't know. That's another thing that, like, when you have a setup mon, and we'll see this later in like Dodge's game. Dodge's was less so kind of this unnecessary, I would say. But yeah, like, if you have something that can be a really good endgame sweeper, and like looking at Cordell's team, if his whole team was chipped down, which it eventually ends up being, like, Celesteela is amazing into it, especially after Autotomize. So yeah, it was a little premature. He set up just to lose his expert belt and then switch out. The expert belt doesn't really matter a ton because everything's chipped enough that he doesn't need the boost from that. But as you can see, now that was a really good heavy slam. But like Selly can't sweep from here. It's not going to be able to do enough to everything. Heatran just after that volt switch, it's came all the way back up here. Protect felt pretty free there. If it fails on the turn before, it basically resets the counter, so you can go for Protect on the next one. But he loses the Choice Scarf on Zapdos, which is pretty important because now it's not faster than Coco, not that it would 2-hit KO it. But it forces him to go and sack Bronzong, which is probably the best play on his team. Keeping Manectric around is still useful for Blastoise and Celesteela. Guzzlord, really good defensive matchup into Cordell. Yeah, being that dragon typing really coming to clutch with the fire and electric resistances. Zapdos already knows it can kind of live any hit from Guzzlord, so it was pretty safe to go for that. And it also knows that Guzzlord wants to switch out, and either on that last turn, he's either going into Nidoking or he's going into Coco on like a close combat for something that would resist it. He's taken enough damage on Ditto that it wouldn't feel like he would go into that. So going for the Stomping Tantrum was actually pretty sick right there. Meatloaf did its job, tried to get all the way back up and fully healthy, but wasn't able to get all the way there. So he sacks it there. This is still feeling like a game that Joe can win with Nidoking. No poison, really big for Cordell. Double close combat, I believe, will do enough here. And the cool thing about having Sneasel with priority Ice Shard is when Ditto copies this, like Ice Shard could kill it at 51%. So Joe makes a really good play there, and U-turns out knowing that if he killed the Gyapdos, that his Ditto would just get killed as well. And then Cordell gets a nice triple hit here with his triple axle. And the timer's running real low on Joe. This actually ended up working out pretty good. I thought when I saw like the team preview that running low sweep on Sneasel was kind of a throw this week on Cordell's end. But since it always lowers the opponent's speed, switching in Zapdos to that gave it its Defiant boost, and this is Choice Scarf Ditto, so it's going to have to switch out, so whatever comes in is taking a +2 attack. Probably close combat, I believe, yeah. And now Ditto can come back, copy the attack boost, and he still has Sneasel in the back to always revenge kill here. Man, that is a weak squishy. So Ice Shard into Selly plus triple axle, getting another 3-hit. I mean, this was just such a crazy game to watch. Like, this started out the season, or this week's games, just incredibly strong. Inner Focus right there gave me a heart attack. I was like, oh, Cordell wins with Manectric. He doesn't lose to low sweep after Intimidate, and then he didn't get intimidated because Cordell was running Inner Focus on his Sneasel. Ended up not mattering and only did 24%. But yeah, I mean, my main takeaway from this is try not to set up too early if you have a good win con, like a Celesteela in this instance. You could have saved that for endgame when everything gets a little bit more chipped, and that way you can actually use it as a sweeper. Otherwise, using Autotomize is kind of just unnecessary. You might as well just get more damage down. If you don't have an opportunity to sweep with it at that point, but it's a good time for it to come in, just use it offensively. Try to build your own chip for itself. Yeah, just like clicking a setup move when you have really nothing to do afterwards is just a waste of a turn. Might as well be in with a different mon, or really attack with the mon that you want to set up with anyway, just to force some chip onto the other side. I mean, we look at Cordell's team, with the exception of Heatran having leftovers, nothing on his team can recover itself. I guess you do have Draining Kiss on Finny, but that doesn't want to do anything to Celesteela. So might as well just get some damage on there. It's going to most likely be permanent on whatever he switches into, and then that makes it easier for you to get the Autotomize up later and then end up sweeping. Yeah, I think that's the main takeaway from this game is setup sweepers. So yeah, GG's. That was, I mean, once again, fantastic game. Cordell's playing out of his mind this season. It's really awesome to see. And we're going to go on to the next one. Okay, so we got Sato versus E here. Another spicy game. This game's going to be a good example of kind of like how to capitalize on getting momentum and really how to not lose it, especially later in the game. So E, we see, starts off really strong with a Thunder Wave into Scissor. That's going to be super annoying for Tyler to play around. Now he's getting momentum again, able to pivot into Chansey no problem. And yeah, Lando perfectly fine Scissor answer. Would have been a really good time there to go into Magneton. I mean, realistically, I guess you could be worried about a superpower coming off of a Scissor into Chansey that I guess you wouldn't want your Magneton to take, but yeah, I mean, you kind of have the paralyzed chance. If he's going for knockoff, this is is this Electrium Z? I think it is, or no, it's Steelium Z on Magneton. But yeah, that could have been a good opportunity because even knockoff's not going to do a whole lot to you. Trap the Scissor. Now this is Analytic Magneton. For those of you who don't know, if you've already played Dodge, you probably do know with his Doug Trio, if there's a Magnet Pool or Arena Trap or Shadow Tag Mon that is trapping you onto the field, it will still show you the Pokemon on your team that you could switch to. However, it's going to give you a warning that says you might be trapped, so you are unable to switch. Now, if you do attempt to switch and they are that trapping set, so really the only variance would be with Magneton, it's either going to be like Analytic or it's going to be Magnet Pool. If he's actually Magnet Pool and you try to switch, now you actually don't do anything that turn, but if he's Analytic opposed to Magnet Pool, you actually get to switch out still, and it just gives you that warning. Like on Wi-Fi, for example, it doesn't give you a warning about the opponent's abilities. So if you try to switch out from Scissor in front of a Magneton and it has Magnet Pool, you end up just essentially wasting that turn. So just something to keep in mind with these trappers, especially like Doug Trio. It's going to run Arena Trap. Like there's really no point in not running that. But yeah, like I don't know its other ability, but like it, in theory, could be the other ability, which is pretty useless, and then you could switch, but yeah, it's just a little something to keep in mind. But yeah, Landorus, really easy answer here for Scissor. Just telling E that Rotom, I mean, is just such a good Garchomp answer. Immune to ground, it's bulky enough to eat the dragon moves, resist the fire moves. Solid all-around pick. Chansey, really good status absorber here. I mean, if we're paying attention here to this game, E's kind of up right now. Magneton on the Blastoise. Now here is something to keep in note. E makes the switch, which it actually ended up saving his Rotom's life. He sees Mirror Coat out of the Butoise here. If I see Mirror Coat coming out of my opponent's Pokemon, I am not hitting them with a special type move, and if I am hitting them with a special type move, I am killing them with that move. I'm not going to let them get a Mirror Coat off on me. So E should notice that Mirror Coat. He should not go for Volt Switch with Rotom, or even Hydro Pump for that matter, because whatever he does is going to get twice as much back onto him, and he has a lower base HP stat than Blastoise, so it's going to do significantly more damage. Unfortunately, E just goes for the attack here. Here comes, okay, the hazards go up here, yada yada. Now here's the Volt Switch. Did 31% to Blastoise. Magneton comes in. Mirror Coat dead. Yeah, so he had... Yeah, he already had Magnezone in front of Blastoise, and then switched to Rotom. If you were just going to sack your Magneton, might as well just stay in and hit it with a move. You know, you didn't even know it had Mirror Coat at that point. And especially now that you do know it has Mirror Coat, don't Volt Switch into it. Just go into like Landorus or Gallade. I mean, Gallade would have been totally fine. Yeah, you're risking the burn or whatever, but you're at least able to hit it with physical damage. So, yeah, Volt Switch probably wouldn't have killed the Blastoise again. We saw the Volt Switch. How much did it do? It did 31%. So, I mean, really, going back into Rotom, like, Ty could have just Mirror Coated again on that Volt Switch and then claimed another kill, essentially. You know, Chansey could have came in, but yeah, it's taken just so much damage after Rocks and Mirror Coat. But yeah, Chansey, good answer for Shiinotic. It's faster too, so it's able to get the Soft Boiled up. Burn a turn of sleep. Doesn't want to stay in anyway. He's got a Rotom that's pretty healthy to deal with this Garchomp. Unfortunate miss on the Scale Shot there. It's actually looking kind of scary at this point. You know, if this was like SD instead of Stealth Rocks on Garchomp, it had a pretty good shot of sweeping right there. And we see the double out of Landorus into Chansey. No reason to risk like any sort of like Effect Spore proccing on Shiinotic. It's just super annoying to hit physically, so just played it safe like that. Still has a Landorus with leftovers. That's going to be totally fine. There goes the leftovers. But yeah, it has plenty of switch-ins. As you can see, Knockoff only did 16% to Landorus. Giga Drain, not really getting enough health back for Shiinotic. This play was a little risky, but it actually worked out pretty well. I don't know. I feel like the Chansey coming in, eating a status, and then switching out felt like a pretty easy read for Ty to just go for another Spore. Like, really, what do you lose in that situation? Chansey just burns a turn of sleep, and then you're just sitting in front of it with your Shiinotic still. Like, you're already probably going to end up switching out when you see Chansey on the field, or if he doubles into something else, you end up putting that to sleep because Chansey woke up. Felt like at that point, I thought Ty was going to go for the Spore because that felt like a pretty easy read for what he was going to do. But yeah, Glade comes in, gets the knockoff off. Fire Punch does not proc the Effect Spore. And yeah, Glade picks up 3 quick kills right there. So this is where the calc kind of comes in. In each situation, you're at 78%. You have really good special defense. I don't even think... I mean, maybe a Spec Psyshock kills you because you have lower defense. I think if you just go for the SD here, you just win the game. Because looking at Ty's team, it's probably likely this is a defensive Mew. Given how he's been playing everything. And it ended up being like, it was a pretty fast Mew, but it had a lot of bulk still in it. It mostly relied on the weakness policy proc along with like Iron Defense to boost like stored power and body press. So like it definitely had offensive power, but it had a ton of bulk in that in order to take advantage of the weakness policy. And because of that bulk, it lived this knockoff. Personally, whenever I'm playing like a Mew, I'm never calcing it with like anything less bulky than just max HP. You know, maybe I put a couple EVs in one of the defenses that I want to like test the damage on. But yeah, I mean, Mew is so versatile. Obviously, it can do everything in the game, but I think it has probably its best role defensively. So it's generally going to lean into more of a defensive role, and we would see that the knockoff wouldn't kill here. Going for the SD, say he went for a Will-O-Wisp or something and burnt you, that's fine. You can SD on the next turn and then you sweep. You know, either one of those options is totally fine because at +4, after the burn, you're essentially at +2, and that would kill with the knockoff. So yeah, and really that was pretty much this decided the entire game. Mew gets boosted up here, kills with stored power, and is able to just get its health back up here. you know, you don't know how much speed it's running. It was going to be faster than Chandelure. I'm pretty sure he EV'd that, for that. And I think after Rock, Chandelure dies to a stored power, I believe. So yes, Chansey probably is your only play at this point. But you're letting Mew just kind of get all the way back up. Now the pair is really important here because that's going to let Chandelure end up getting the kill later. Yeah, after that, Iron Defense. I don't think Rotom is the sack here. I think Chansey is the sack for sure. Chansey loses to Garchomp and Scissor, so... yeah, Chandelure comes in. It's slower than Garchomp. And so at this point, having Rotom around would have been huge. But really good Intimidate on Lando. Only gets 2 hits. That's pretty important. And then the natural gift, Yache Berry, to clean up the Landorus. Heat of the Week nominee, for sure. And now E. So, okay, he does need to get the Seismic Toss off at some point, but I think guaranteeing yourself to be over, let's see, after, like, you're going second with your soft-boileds, you can get yourself essentially back up to full by the time he decides to switch or go into something else. So he's pretty full here, looking good. Big para, really big para. And now we see the knockoff here. And we saw that Seismic Toss is 29%. It is not going to kill Scissor. So right here, what E needs to do is figure out what this thing is going to do to you. And it's like, okay, it's going for knockoff, gets the crit. You have to roost here. Or soft boil, I mean. Because without soft boiling, Garchomp is now going to be faster and can sweep with Earthquake. There was a situation where maybe Chansey was going to be able to take on Scissor and Garchomp, but it had to be super, super healthy to get to that point. And yeah. Oh yeah, and at the end there, the Scale Shot out of Garchomp, that was because he wasn't able to figure out if this was Scarf Chandelure or not, because he didn't need Specs to kill previously. And he was going to lose if this was a Scarf Chandelure if he didn't get his Scale Shot up. So really well played in the end by Ty. I know he misclicked going for knockoff the second time into Chansey, but it paid off. He got the crit. So yeah, it ended up not mattering at all. But yeah, that was a really good game. Another nail biter coming down the last turn. Instead of living on 8%, got something living on 21%. And yeah, we're gonna go on to the next one. All right, we got me versus Berg. So I was running a cool little tech here this week, a Trick Room Explosion Gourgeist plus like a Life Orb Wall Breaker Rampardos. Unfortunately switch in and lose my normal gem on a Corrosive Gas, but I didn't really have a good Wheezing answer. I kind of overlooked it in prep. I didn't think it was going to be that important, honestly. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. That one didn't really matter because I didn't end up going boom this game, but yeah, just pretty free Scald here. Now this was to scout what Primarina said he was. And between the Scald damage and the Shadow Ball damage, I know he's not boosted offensively, but he is Assault Vest. I call the switch there and I go for the Earthquake. And yep, Rotom always super free on Steelix. Pretty free Overheat here. Just get some chip down. And I see Power Up Punch, and I am just like, what in the world is going on with this Victini? Now, I do misplay a little bit. Big Bolt Strike miss, really big, actually. But as you can see from the calc, I live that. I get parried, and then I also get parried on that turn. And I decide, for whatever reason, to switch Rotom in, and it gets crit by Bolt Strike. So his Victini, after missing the one Bolt Strike, just absolutely goes nuclear on me. And I sack Rotom here. Now, this was a misplay. After I lost my normal gem on my Gourgeist, I really should have just preserved Slowbro to be my Trick Room setter. Gourgeist wasn't doing a ton for me this game. yeah, I don't have any way to hit Steelix. It is nice for Raikou, but I mean, Rotom is just as nice for Raikou anyway. What I should have done is just sack Gourgeist and kept Rotom around at like 52%. It would have given me a lot more value in the end game, and we will see why. But yeah, this is a pretty easy revenge kill for Lopunny at this point. I go for the power-up punch to kind of force him to switch into Weezing here. Because I'd live anything like from a Scarfed Raikou, and then I would know if he goes into Swellow if that's Scarfed as well. Knock the Assault Vest on Prima, free U-turn into Slowbro here, eat the Ice Beam, and I think the cheese continues. Yep, another para. Now, yeah, okay, what am I doing here? And I just go hard into Lopunny. Based off of what he was clicking, I didn't think a Moonblast was coming out on that turn. Plus, I'd made that move really quick. If I was a little unsure about it, I would have made the move really quick, waited about 10 seconds. If he still hadn't clicked his move, he would have been thinking about something other than Shadow Ball. But you can kind of get your opponent... I mean, in no way am I saying I forced him to go for Shadow Ball, but you can capitalize on somebody's like initial thought before they can cancel a move if you've clicked your move first. So I clicked quick on Lopunny, and I waited a couple seconds, and then he clicked his move, which was Shadow Ball. Had it gone a little bit longer and he was thinking about it, I would have canceled my move, went into like Tornadus or something that can live a Moonblast. Or maybe I choose a sack, go Rampardos, toss it, whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't say I forced him into it, but I knew Shadow Ball was coming out based off of how quickly he clicked. So sometimes clicking your switch or your move quick can catch them before they actually have a better idea. Pretty useful sometimes. Yep, Weezing, I can always go into Tornadus here. I get confused, just add an insult to injury. I think I get parried here again. Yep, dude. So tough. Finally get the teleport off. Go Lopunny. Primarina's low enough now that I can just attack into it. And Weezing's in range now of 2 Frustrations, so I can just go for that pretty comfortably. Steelix comes out. I know I'm going to die to a Body Press. And this covers Earthquake as well if you wanted to, check me going into like a mid-ground or something. I go for the Will-O-Wisp here. I probably should have just went for the Trick Room and then went Boom in hindsight, because I still have a super healthy Rampardos that could cook. But yeah, I just have to sack Slowbro. It's done its job. It would be nice against Steelix, but I've been getting parried so much that it was ridiculous. I go for the Fire Blast there, and it might sound weird, but it felt like Steelix was going to be a potential switch in, and I didn't want to Rock Slide into it. I needed to get Chip on Steelix for Lopunny to kill. At this point, Lopunny is basically my only offensive threat for the rest of his team. And I know based off the damage, it only kills Slowbro if it specs. And since it killed, I know it specs, I can kill it with Lopunny because I'm faster. So really all Rampardos had to do was get damage down, and that's what it did there. So I can go Lopunny, easy revenge kill. I went for the CC there just in case he went Raikou. I don't know. It probably didn't matter either way because I switch out on Steelix no matter what. But yeah, unfortunately my Gourgeist can't really do a whole lot to him. So he goes into Raikou. I burn him. Just trying to get it down into range for close combat at this point. And I see the damage on Hidden Power there. And I know it's Specs. So Lopunny is faster than Raikou. I also live a Specs Thunderbolt from Raikou with Mega Lopunny. And I went for another Will-O-Wisp just to potentially catch a Steelix, make its Body Presses do less damage. And so this endgame, I had to think about it a lot. So looking at this position, Steelix is not in range of Lopunny. Raikou is just out of range. I needed to take one more turn of burn damage, but I can also just attack into it twice with Lopunny because he can't kill me in one hit with Thunderbolt. Now, if he goes for Aura Sphere, I have Tornadus. They cover each other like that. Tornadus being at 75%. I think when it switches in, it's at 100%. There we go. Yeah. Berg makes an amazing read here. Honestly, just loses if I stayed in. So like super risky play, but works out, goes for the Stone Edge and connects. That still doesn't really matter for me though, because all I have to do is hit a Heat Wave on Steelix and Lopunny kills it. It's a low enough range that one Heat Wave into close combat kills. Yeah, so, and there's a couple options here. So I go for the Heat Wave here, and I miss, which is annoying, because now that means I have to choose which one of these I need alive in the end game. And each one loses in different ways. Lopunny loses to Steelix if it's not chipped, and Raikou beats Tornadus at this point as well. So what I decide to do is I want to keep Lopunny around. So I go for the Heat Wave here, because I'm running Power Up Punch on Lopunny, as we saw earlier with the Victini. And if I Power Up Punch into this, it won't kill, including burn, and then I can Power Up Punch again, and at +2, I kill Steelix with close combat. It was a really tricky endgame for me to kind of navigate, and I think I ended up making the right plays. The other option, which it still actually comes down to me not getting paralyzed by Thunderbolt, would have been switching into a Thunderbolt with Lopunny initially into Raikou, hitting it with a close combat, and then hopefully 2-hit KOing Steelix with Heat Wave with Tornadus, but that means I have to hit 3 Heat Waves. So this is like the higher percentage play that I went for. And I go for the Power Up Punch, it does 30, it's going to live through the burn, no problem. GG. That's it. Yep. Get parried, so I'm slower than Raikou on the next turn. Can't get off the second Power Up Punch. And yeah, that's Pokemon. So if you guys feel like you're not going to win a matchup or whatever, I mean, look at this. Like, anything can happen. Yeah, it's Pokemon. Like, shit happens, so GG's to Berg. I mean, he played it great. That Stone Edge on the Torn really made it uncomfortable for me. So yeah, GG's all around. Gonna go on to the next one. Okay, going on to MJC versus Graham. This is a game that on paper, like, Pinsir just looks like incredible in. Yeah, I mean, this is just Graham didn't know what Rimbombi could really do. He was probably expecting the Sticky Web. Totally fair. But yeah, the Stun Spore coming off on Gliscor, now it doesn't get its Poison Heal for the rest of the game. That is so annoying. Oh my gosh, that is so frustrating. I had to watch this off my phone, so I'm actually going to be catching most of the game real time right here in this replay. Yeah, man, all that damage is just like racking up on Gliscor. Can't heal back up. Love me some shiny Spiritomb. Big burn off on the Willow, on the Ferrothorn. I'm trying to see how, because I know this game got really close, so I'm trying to see how Graham ended up bringing it back. So many hazards going up. Bulk up. Okay, yep. So okay, yeah, this is kind of like with Joe in that first game we were breaking down. Realistically, Heracross doing any sort of setup move, especially when it's slow with like Sticky Web, it's already slower than Mega Pinsir. There's no reason to ever bulk up in that situation with Heracross. Just claim your kill on the switch. Yeah, I mean, like, Melodic's not burnt yet. Nothing wants to take a close combat. I know Azelf resisted, but it doesn't really have good defenses. Yeah, so that bulk up basically meant that you lost 12% on Heracross plus your Shift Tree. Just one move. That's all it took, was one move. You lost them on, and you had, you know, irreversible damage on your Mega Pokemon. So yeah, that's the thing. Bulking up at this point, okay, sure, maybe you get one kill with it, and then he just goes Pinsir and then kills you back. And the bulk up was super unnecessary, because it's not going to Oko a Melodic. I mean, maybe it kills Azelf, but it's not like he's switching Azelf in, and Azelf can just kill you back before you even move. So yeah, that was a huge play right there. Volcanion, we see its boots, gets paralyzed. Oh yeah, and I see Graham said oops in the chat, so. And big defog here, no para, gets rid of all those hazards. And yeah, this is one thing that's pretty cool about Volcanion. It's a really good melodic answer, especially if it's paralyzed, because it can't get toxicked. Scorching Sands is interesting. I almost always prefer Earth Power on Volcanion. It's just more damage, plus you can get in a situation maybe against the melodic where you can get like a special defense drop, which would be pretty huge. This would be a good time to double out in Volcanion into like a Raichu or something on a predicted recover. Pretty obvious that Melodic's going for recover at this point because it can't do anything to you. And really it's just PP stalling. Now you go into Raichu there on the attack. So we'll talk about this in the next game, but that's 2 games this week where an Air Balloon Pokemon... Now, Air Balloon didn't matter a ton on Raichu this week, but it's still the same concept of you have a useful item because you don't know if Heracross has Earthquake or Pinsir has Earthquake yet. So like there's no real reason to go into this at this point until you know that you're forcing a recover on Melodic. So that first turn that Melodic was in, it was what was it at? I mean, it was basically a 50% after the burn damage. So yeah, just going into it on the first turn, that was right here. Like, there's no reason to stay in with Volcanion at that point. If it's that low, it's gonna heal up. So you could have went into Raichu on that turn, opposed to now where you end up getting your balloon popped. You know, MJC's really just, he knows that Volcanion is going to end up getting PP stalled to Melodic, so he can kind of stay in. It's not like he was making any sort of crazy read, but he wasn't going to hit a water move into it because of water absorb. Let's see, yeah, Raichu fat enough to eat the freeze dry, Sucker Punch to kill Mr. Rhyme. Yep, pretty safe Hera there. Gliscor would have been also fine. Yeah, and I don't think you need the bulk up to kill Ferrothorn, so you could have just got the close combat and kept rocks off of your field. Massive kill on Melodic afterwards, though, which was kind of a throw on MJC's part. I mean, I don't know why you go into Melodic here. Seems unnecessary. But yeah, he's got Pinsir here, and Pinsir looks so good for the rest of the game. Pretty easy return into Spiritomb. Lives on 10%, which is quick attack range, because quick attack does roughly like 30%. Faster than Spiritomb Sucker Punch as well. And massive para there. Volcanion probably kills with Flamethrower here, and let's kind of like analyze the end game if Pinsir goes down. Azelf, what was his set on Azelf? Choice Manda with U-Turn, Psycho Cut, Ice Punch, and Explosion. So Psycho Cut probably sweeps at this point, depending on if it kills Gliscor after rocks. It might. There's probably a good chance it does. So I think that para was probably insignificant if Gliscor died to Psycho Cut. But yeah, I mean, it just sucks. It hurts the differential. It's just not, it's not a good situation. But yeah, Raichu taking some unnecessary damage, you know, it's not going to be able to live a quick attack anymore. And yeah, now Gliscor is definitely in range from Iron Barbs. So that's something that MJC could have done if Pinsir went down, is go Azelf, get your kill with Psycho Cut. 1 second. Sorry. dog barking. We're back. Okay, yeah. Where was I? I think with Iron Barb's chip on Gliscor, kind of switching back and forth between Azelf and Ferrothorn on Gliscor would have gotten it into range, and then Azelf could have just ended up cleaning with Psycho Cut, so I don't think it really mattered. I think MJC actually had the game pretty much locked up at that point. But yeah, I mean, trust me, I know. Pairs suck. Pairs freaking suck. Massive crit there on the 6% Raichu. Mattered. And yeah, MJC, he was really just trying to show off the tech here, because he was choice banded, he had to switch out. He just wanted to blow up. Classic Azelf boom boom. Alright, let's go on to the last one. Luna might be joining us at some point during this. She is sitting right next to me, looking like she wants attention, so... Alright, I talked to Dodge a little bit about prep for this game, and Hidden Power Rock is actually something I suggested for his Arcanine, because it felt like Moltres was a really good answer to it, and yeah, it does a ton of damage off max special attack. Now here, Gyarados would have been a fine switch-in. Keep your Arcanine around. You know, it hits Metagross, Aggron. You got close combat from Miltank and Mamoswine as well. You know, you're not living Earthquake with that Chucka Berry, and it's pretty unlikely he's going for an Ice-type move here into your Arcanine with a Mamoswine. Plus, now it's not something you could determine immediately, but it feels like Tommy didn't have any idea of how fast Arcanine was, and he went into Mamoswine quickly. That's kind of like an indicator that, okay, this thing is scarfed, or at least it's like jolly max speed, and he's calling it that I'm not max speed with my my Arcanine. So, yeah, that could have been something that Dodge considered with how quickly it came out, that, okay, he's going to go for the ground move here because he's faster. I can go into my Gyarados, get the Intimidate off, and I really don't care about Mamoswine at this point. So yeah, he could have went in the Gyarados, saved the Arcanine, could have been pretty useful later on down the road. I was talking to Berg, Cordell, who else was in there? MJC hopped in into the call during the game today. I think staying unmega'd with Gyarados and then megaing on the turn that Aggron came out to maybe scout for like a Thunder Punch would have been really cool. Once you mega, it's just like fodder for a Body Press coming in, and at +1 it's not going to be enough to kill Aggron, and actually at +2 we'll see did 85%. Unreal. Thing is so fat. But yeah, Mold Breaker beating up the filter on Aggron was pretty cool there, doing that much damage. Yep. So this turn, I mean, you have a perfectly healthy Clefable. Would have been a great Rotomancer here, and it would have kept your Balloon on Gengar. Now, yes, this is a very obvious grass moves coming out. You go into your Poison type, that checks out, but this is specially defensive Clefable. If that can't check a Rotom, it can't check anything, and I promise you, it definitely could have handled it. Could have got rocks up, could have soft-boiled up, could have done a whole lot of stuff that would have been annoying for Tommy, and you would have kept your Air Balloon on Gengar, and yeah, we'll see how important that is later with that Scarf Mamo. Let's see, Sludge Wave, knock out Moltres. Goes Miltank here. Now, this is another instance. Miltank is not offensive enough to even pressure a not physically defensive Clefable. Would have been totally fine to go into Clef here as well. Save your health on your Dugtrio. Could have done a little bit of something with it later. Maybe even chip Miltank with your Clefable. That way it would have been put into ground EMZ range. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. 35% is kind of a tall ask for Clefable, but unfortunately, we see the focus miss. Now, does this matter at the end of the game because he doesn't have Arcanine and he never used Clefable? I don't think so. I think Weakness Policy Metagross just matches up super well. But it's annoying because now you don't have your Gengar in order to like Sludge Wave or Rotom, Shadow Ball a Metagross in conjunction with like an Unburdened Hitmonlee. Yeah, I mean, having Gengar after this turn would have been huge. Plus, since you switched in on the Leaf Storm, you don't have your air balloon anymore, so Miltank is easily able to go for the Earthquake and knock you out. Yeah, just unfortunate. Trust me, from Season 1, trust Clefable. You can trust it, it will not do you no harm. I don't think it ends up mattering, because Bullet Punch does so much to Hitmonlee anyway, but going for the knockoff, 2 knockoffs probably kill Rotom. You probably didn't have to go for the CC there. That way you keep that +1 defense. I don't know the exact calc. I could be just talking out of my ass right now, but yeah, Metagross is just going to clean this up because Hitmonlee didn't have enough health left to live that Bullet Punch. But yeah, I mean, a little bit of change up from the first 4 games, all being absolute nail biters, but this was still really well played. I thought it was really cool seeing some techs like the Hidden Power Rock Arcanine. Yeah, overall, like, I mean, Scarf Mammo is cool. I think it's underutilized. It's tough because you like the versatility of how much offensive pressure it has, having ice and ground and being able to switch between those. But it's unexpected. It's pretty cool to, you know, bring out there. But yeah, that'll do it for this week, guys. I'm just gonna pull up the website real quick and get the standings out here. Let's see if we can get this more centered. Nope. Hold on. There we go. Let's see. Can I do anything to put the record in there? Hey, there we go. That's what we're talking about. That's how we do it. All right, so we got Ty in first, clean 4-0, +15. I'm in second, 3-1, +14. Then we got the Cubone, 3-1. Bordell and the Shiftry, 3-1. Then Tommy, the lone, 2-2, and everybody else 1-3 based off of differential. We got a ranking of E, Dodge, Graham, Berg, and Joe. So yeah, I mean, still early in the season. We're at the halfway point. Everybody makes playoffs, so there's... Well, I guess we're not even at the halfway point. Halfway through this week, we'll be at the halfway. So we got 9 games this year. Yeah, so check out your matchups. I'm going to put that in Discord. Keep bringing that heat, everybody. Catch you out. Peace.